Hola, bienvenidas y bienvenidos a la entrevista con Judy Weiser. Hello, welcome everybody to the Judy Weiser's interview. Mi nombre es Daniela Java Balanovsky y antes que nada quiero decirles que estamos muy honrados con la presencia de Judy Weiser en este encuentro. My name is Daniela Java Balanovsky and we are very honored with the presence of Judy Weiser in this meet. Judy Weiser, les cuento, es una de las pioneras en fotografía terapéutica y en fototerapia. Ella es la directora del PhotoTherapy Centre en Vancouver, en Canadá. Judy Weiser is one of the earlier pioneers of the phototherapy techniques and therapeutic photography. She is the director of the PhotoTherapy Centre in Vancouver, Canadá. Estas van a ser las preguntas que le hicimos a Judy. Those are the questions that we did to Judy. La primera pregunta es que le pedimos a Judy que nos cuente acerca de su vida personal y profesional. The first question is, Judy, tell us about your personal and professional life. La segunda pregunta fue, ¿cómo comenzó usted a trabajar en fotografía terapéutica y fototerapia? How did you start to work with photography, therapeutic photography and phototherapy? La tercera pregunta fue, ¿cuál es su trabajo más importante en esta área? Which is your most important work in this area? La cuarta pregunta que le hicimos fue, ¿qué piensa usted acerca de la utilización de teléfonos celulares en fotografías? What do you think about people using cell phones for photography? Y la quinta y última pregunta es, ¿cómo imagina el futuro de la fotografía terapéutica en el mundo? How do you imagine the future of phototherapy in the world? Bueno, con ustedes la entrevista, esperamos que lo disfruten. With you, the interview, and we hope you enjoy. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Hola, yo soy Judy Weiser y yo hablo español, pero muy básico, and so I'm going to continue in English, and I thank Daniela for translating for me into Spanish. I am a registered psychologist in Canada, an art therapist registered in both the United States and Canada. And I am one of the early pioneers of phototherapy techniques, which teach people how to use photos to help people, and those people being, in the original version, mental health professionals only. I'm the author of a book, Phototherapy Techniques, Exploring the Secrets of Personal Snapshots and Family Albums. And it's now in third printing, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that it's going to be accepted for Spanish translation soon. First question, I think, my personal and professional story of life for the last several decades has been using photos to help people, first in therapy and then more openly in therapeutic photography, where anyone can do it in situations where the skills of a therapist aren't needed. And my personal and professional life weaved together to form who I have become. I've been using photos to help people for over 50 years, and Daniela wants me to tell the story of my personal and professional story of life in 5 minutes. I can't do that, but I'm going to continue on with her second question because it also answers part of the first question. Her second question is, how did you start working with phototherapy? My answer, I didn't know I was doing that until later when someone asked me, what do you call this work you're doing with deaf children, sordo? And I said, well, I use pictures when I can't communicate with sign language or words. And so I took the sign for a photo, which is from your eye into your hand. And the word for therapy is an adaptation of the word for helping, but with the letter T. And I said, it's phototherapy. And they said, interesting. We'd like you to write an article for a photography magazine that's going to have the focus on photography as an agent of change. So I said yes. And I wrote a story about working with children who cannot hear and cannot talk and are trying to understand what people are saying to them and trying to read their faces and unable to tell me what their problems are at home. And they watched me go out and take photos during the days we were together. And I often gave them my camera and they took photos. And I began to learn what was happening in their life as they explained the photos to me, because I never saw the photos the same way they did. That's part of the underlying theory of this work. And so that was in 1975, first article ever published with the word phototherapy in its title. In those days, there were no computers, there was no internet. People communicated by sending things in the mail, letters and newsletters. And I received a letter from a man in Illinois saying, oh, I read your article. I don't know how. And I work with deaf teenagers. And by the way, are you coming to the International Phototherapy Conference next year in Chicago? And my ego went, I'm not going to be famous. But still, I wanted to meet all these other people and find out what they were doing. So I went to the conference and there were over 200 people from 5 countries. And every single one of us thought we had invented this because there was no way to know in those days what anyone else was doing. So we started an association. We started a newsletter that originally was mailed out and then became a journal. And it went on for 10 or 15 years. The conferences kept happening. We talked at other conferences like visual literacy conferences and psychology conferences. And all of this was based on the fact that I was also a gallery exhibiting art photographer who had never studied photography as an art and therefore would put the pictures on the walls of my home because we were poor and we didn't have any artwork. So I stuck my photos all over our walls. And I kept being amazed. People would come in and look at a photo. It's a photo of a place I've been or someone I know. And they would say things like, God, that woman looks sad. And I was like, I thought she looked happy. I don't say anything, but I know this person. I wonder why this visitor thought she looked sad. I kept hearing things like that. It made me very curious about how it is that they were seeing photos that I knew so well, but seeing them so differently. And that is the other part, the partnership between photos and my training as a professional counselor and then as a psychologist, because I learned things about people as they told me what they were seeing and what it meant and what it reminded them of, and some feelings and memories that it evoked, none of which had I intended by showing them that image. But nevertheless, it became very clear that they were seeing my photo differently than I was, and they were right for themselves. And I was certainly right because I knew the details of the photo shoot. And it became even more evidence in 1982 when I had a formal exhibition at a photo gallery in Vancouver. And I went around in my blue jeans with my coffee cup. They didn't know I was the photographer. They thought I was another visitor. And so I would go up to them and I would say, I wonder why the photographer took this picture. And they would normally have a nice conversation going, well, probably because, and they would tell me things, or because I had not put titles under my photos, I put questions. So I had a grouping of 5 photos of people, and I have a question: which of these people would you like most to meet? And then why? And that question why is the key question of all this work, whether it's photos people take, photos are taken of people, self photos, pictures in albums, whatever, they are projecting their own meaning as they perceive the photo and notice what differences make a difference to them. What are the details they pay attention to? And the secret of this work is the story of the photo. It's not in the photo. You can tell me what the visual details are of a tree, a dog, a person, but what the photo is about, the story it tells to a viewer who's noticing it, that story is created by the viewer as they look at the picture and try to make sense of what's in front of their eyes. What are they looking at? And so for me, I got very curious talking about how people project meaning onto photos. And that led to me realizing that I'm working all day long with psychotherapy patients, clients who have problems, or they wouldn't be talking to a stranger for money. And my goal was to help them understand their life enough that they did not need a therapist the next time they had problems. So basically, phototherapy techniques are photos of you, photos taken by you, self-portraits, family album photos, and underlying those 4 things, like a hand that needs a thumb to make things activate, the 5th technique is called photo projecting. How do you make sense of any of those other kinds of photos? And it's relevant to every single kind of photo. It also is relevant to current century. I mean, I started this almost 50 years ago. And there's digital cameras, and there's videos, and it's no longer stuff on film, long strips of film. And I keep being told, well, isn't your book outdated? And it's like, no, because it's about what an image is about, not what the image is of. The why parts. Why was it taken? Why do you see it this way? What can I learn about you as you explain the photo? So I think I'm combining 3 of your, sorry. But the current technology, it doesn't matter at all how the photo was created. Because as I say when I teach, it's not about the art part. It's about the heart part. What feelings, memories, thoughts, ideas, beliefs are evoked as you notice the important parts of a photo in front of you. And they may not, certainly not going to be the same ones I do. It's almost impossible unless I was you. And there's value in that for therapists, because most of the time, if I'm seeing a photo a certain way, I know I'm right inside my head. And so does the person standing next to me who's seeing it differently, and they know they're right. And so you have a situation where there's 2 people seeing the same photo differently, both knowing they're right, and therefore the other is wrong. And if I can get them to understand that with photos, maybe they will understand why they both see their child differently and they both think they're right. A lot of the problems people come to me with for help are based on not realizing that their way is not the only way, because to them it is reality. And you can use photos in a number of ways to explore that. So I pioneered the techniques teaching mental health professionals how to do this. I went on, and around 2008, I was giving a talk at a conference in Finland, on a conference on phototherapy, and I realized the room was about 75% not mental health professionals, people who had read my book, learned my techniques, and were adapting it to their own life or for helping other people for situations where the skills of a therapist weren't needed. So I took the word phototherapy and I reversed it, and I then announced the new name of a new practice called therapeutic photography. And everybody liked that. And so basically people who are doing therapeutic photography, which is where I believe Daniela's work is oriented, has to do with how can people use adaptations of my 5 therapy-oriented techniques to help people or themselves improve their well-being, make positive changes, improve their lives. And then there is a second part of that work, which has been named later as social action photography, where people use photos. They do a project where a group of people, immigrants, refugees, cancer patients, people who have been marginalized, people who are viewed by society as a problem or less valuable, addictions, etc. And taking photos to explain their life to other people, explain what it's like to be them right now, and then getting the photos printed or scanned or digitalized. You know, you can do this by looking at photos on a cell phone, and talk about, you know, how they wish people would understand the parts of them that aren't their problem, and their problem seems to be defining them. So they do projects to try to improve the well-being and make positive changes in society rather than the individuals doing the project themselves. So that's your basic framework. She asked me, how do I imagine the future of phototherapy in the world? I can't imagine it not continuing. People are really oriented toward images. The only difference is, over the last 50 years, it used to be that if I had a photo of something, it happened. I have proof. See, I hold up a photo. It used to be that if there's a picture of it, it was there in front of the lens. And as you all know by now, with Photoshop and digital manipulation of images, that's no longer true. But that could lead to a whole new set of questions, like, do you think this photo was manipulated? How do you know? What do you think would have to change for you to have a different person? All of those questions about photos are the same questions a therapist would ask, or a friend would ask people. God, we really see this differently. How come? I mean, we both see it our own way, and for us it's right. And I wonder why we see it differently. And the therapist would take that back into how you were raised, your cultural values, your race, your religion, your parenting, that tells you which filters you use to see what's important in front of you. So the future of phototherapy in the world, I can't see any problem, any change. I hope people keep doing this forever. I have 40 years of archives in my house basement, and they document the field and how it's grown. And what has happened is, as there is a need for a new kind of insider understanding, somebody somewhere says, I bet we can figure this out by getting them to talk about photos. That's what the field is about. I wanted to say before I end that there are ways you can find out more. I have prepared a visual little graphic, a framework of where to get more information of phototherapy, and that is my website. And I give the link, and you can get this either by photographing this screen when Daniela puts it there, or hopefully she's adding a link to where you can download the piece of, I was going to say piece of paper because I'm old, the PDF. And so it's how to find out more about phototherapy, which is my website, Phototherapy and Therapeutic Photography Techniques. There's also an amazing Facebook group that right now has over 8,500 members. Every one of those members has had to be approved to join the group by telling me, because I run it, what is your interest in using photos in your work or to help people improve their lives? And if their answer is satisfactory, I accept them as a member and they go on to post. It's been going for over 10 years. There's a search box at the top of that page where you can type anything, depression, cancer, teenagers, whatever. And that search result will be several pages that you can save as a PDF with hot links, active links of every message that's ever been posted or every comment that's ever been posted in response to using photos to help people with that topic. So there's a Facebook group. There's a link to that Facebook group. You can find it probably, it's a long title. If you searched, you did a Google search for Facebook, phototherapy, therapeutic photography, photo art therapy. By then, Google will have found it for you. But the link to that is on the PDF that I've given Daniela. And the last bit of information is I am not able to teach all over the world like I used to be doing. I used to teach in Italy several times a year, and I've taught in, I don't know, Korea, Mexico, many countries in Europe. And between getting older and COVID preventing my travel and preventing me from hosting a 6-day formal training in Vancouver, which I used to do every year, but people can't fly here anymore, I have decided to take a 2-month break and put my work together as an online course, as a package of online courses. Introduction to phototherapy and therapeutic photography. The next level will be, that's the first one, so you can find out what it is that you're wanting to know more about. The second level will be more about phototherapy, more about therapeutic photography. The third level will be more information about using these techniques in special populations. There's a huge amount of work being done using photos to help people with PTSD, people who are recovering from a supposedly terminal illness, but they're still alive, grief, bereavement, mindfulness as a way to cope with depression from COVID, and on and on. Those courses will cover all of that, and hopefully a year down the line, I might be able to actually do a formal training of advanced level mental health professionals only in the phototherapy techniques that started all of this. Now, there is a huge network of other practitioners, people who have published. If you do Google alerts, you will get notified anytime there's a publication with certain words in the title. I have a huge collection of those. So on my website, you can Google search, but on my website, you can find articles and books that were done before internet and therefore not known on the internet. You can also go to the page about the book and you can download for free the preface, the introduction chapter, just to get a feel for what the book is. And lastly, my book is going to be an ebook within the next couple of months. So I need to review her questions, my professional personal story of life. How did I start working? What's my important work? Cell phones, future, and how can you learn more? I believe, Daniela, I've done this and it's less than 30 minutes. And I'm going to say thank you very much, muchísimas gracias, for your interest and your excitement about all these techniques. It was obvious to me the very first day I met you many years ago. And so I don't know if I remember to put my email on that PDF. I'm busy talking about things and not about me, but Daniela has my email. So feel free to contact me if you want to get notified when my courses go online. Go to the page of my website that's titled Online Courses, and there's a link there to click that will send me an email from your email about being notified, and you automatically go on the list, and people on that list will have advanced notification. So I'm going to stop, even though I could talk for another 5 minutes. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, and I'm delighted you're interested enough to watch this. If you are doing work that you think I don't know about, or that other people will want to know about, sometimes there's people in 3 countries that meet on my Facebook group, and they become their own network because they're doing the same work in 3 countries and they never realized anyone else was doing it. That's what the Facebook group is for. So thank you very much again, Daniela, and I'm going to stop.